From the high chambers of the Galactic Council, Earth looked like a quiet blue dot floating in a wide and endless dark. It was small. It was noisy. It was divided by lines humans had drawn themselves. Many in the council had studied it before and quickly lost interest. Compared to the grand empires of the stars, Earth felt unfinished, like a story that would never reach its end. Alan Moore stood near the wide crystal window, his hands folded behind his back. He had watched thousands of worlds from this very place. Some had risen fast and burned out just as quickly. Others had torn themselves apart long before anyone else could interfere. Earth, in his view, belonged to neither group. It was simply irrelevant. Sarah Wells sat nearby, reviewing old reports on a floating screen. Her expression was calm, almost bored. She had read these files many times over the years. Wars between nations. Slow progress into space. A planet that could not agree with itself for more than a moment. They argue over everything, Sarah said quietly. Resources. Borders. Beliefs. Even their own future. Alan nodded. A species that cannot stand together does not last long. History is clear on that. Around them, other council members moved through the chamber, discussing trade routes, distant conflicts, and rising powers. Earth was rarely mentioned. When it was usually as a warning, a lesson about wasted potential. Then the alert came. At first it was nothing more than a soft tone. A small sound easily lost in the hum of the chamber. A junior observer paused, frowned, and checked the data again. His eyes widened. Council observers, he said, his voice tight, we have an unexpected course change in Sector 9. Alan turned slowly. Explain. A fleet, the observer said. Unknown origin. Long-range scanners confirm it has altered its path. Sarah looked up from her screen. Toward where? The room grew quiet as the answer appeared in glowing symbols above them. For a moment no one spoke. Not because they were afraid, but because the idea felt strange. Why would anyone waste time on Earth? Alan stepped closer to the display. Are you certain? Yes, the observer replied. Their speed suggests intent, not coincidence. A few council members exchanged looks. Some shrugged. Others sighed. So, one of them said, someone has decided to clean up a minor world. Sarah leaned back in her seat. It happens. Weak planets attract attention. Alan said nothing. His eyes remained on the blue dot now marked with warning symbols. He had seen this before. A stronger force noticed a vulnerable world. The outcome was usually quick and final. The humans will panic, another council member said. They always do. They will argue, someone else added. About who is in charge. About who is to blame. And by the time they agree on anything, Sarah said, it will be over. The council did not vote on intervention. There was no rule that required it. Earth was not a member. Earth had never asked to be one. Still, the chamber remained uneasy. Not because Earth mattered, but because something felt off. Alan narrowed his eyes. Why now? He asked. Sarah glanced at him. What do you mean? Earth has been exposed for a long time, Alan said. Its signals are loud. Its defenses are weak. If someone wanted it, they could have taken it years ago. Sarah considered this. Maybe the fleet only just noticed. Or maybe, Alan said slowly, there is something we did not notice. Sarah did not answer. Instead, she brought up live feeds from Earth. Cities glowed on the dark side of the planet. Satellites moved in tight patterns. The planet looked peaceful, fragile. Down on Earth, people slept, worked, argued, laughed. They did not know eyes from across the galaxy were now fixed on them. They did not know a decision had already been made far beyond their sky. In the council chamber, time passed. Updates came in slowly. The fleet continued its course. No messages were sent. No warnings given. They have not contacted Earth, the observer reported. Why would they? Someone replied. There is no need. Sarah watched the feeds closely. The humans still do not know, she said. Alan felt a strange tension in his chest. He told himself it was nothing. He had seen this too many times to feel anything new. Yet, as he watched the tiny blue world turn in silence, a thought lingered. They look unprepared, but they are still alive. Earth had survived plagues, disasters, and wars that should have ended it. Again and again humans had come close to collapse, yet somehow continued. Alan shook his head. Survival did not mean strength. Many species survived right up until the moment they didn't. The council will record this as another failed world, Sarah said softly. A short entry. A simple ending. Yes, Alan replied. But he did not sound certain. As the unknown fleet moved closer, sensors picked up faint changes from Earth. Small increases in activity. More signals. More movement in orbit. Sarah noticed first. They're adjusting something. Alan leaned in. Defense. Maybe, she said. Or maybe confusion. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as more data flowed in. Earth was still far from ready, if it ever could be ready, but it was no longer asleep. Alan watched carefully now. Not with pity but with interest. For the first time in many years, Earth did not look entirely insignificant. And far above a quiet blue world, the Galactic Council continued to watch, expecting collapse, unaware that their certainty might soon be tested. The first warning did not arrive as fire or noise. It arrived as numbers that did not make sense. On a quiet morning, screens in research centers across Earth began to show the same strange result. Objects were moving where nothing should be moving. Signals were bending in ways that could not be explained by known science. Tom Harris was in a small control room when the alert reached him. He was not a man who believed in panic. He read the data twice, then a third time before speaking. "This isn't an error," he said calmly. "Something is coming." Across the ocean, Linda Grant stared at a similar screen. She felt fear rise in her chest, sharp and sudden, but she pushed it down. Fear could wait. Decisions could not. "Confirm with every station," she ordered. "I want shared data, not guesses." Within hours, the truth spread across the planet. An unknown fleet was moving toward Earth. It was large. It was fast. And it was not human. People expected chaos. They expected shouting leaders, closed borders, and blame thrown like stones. That was how things usually went. But this time something was different. Tom and Linda spoke through a secure channel. They did not argue. They did not waste time reminding each other of old mistakes. "We don't have much time," Tom said. "Then we don't waste any," Linda replied. They opened the doors that were usually kept locked. Military data was shared with civilian scientists. Private companies opened their systems to governments. Old rivals exchanged information without asking for payment or credit. Around the world, similar choices were being made. People who had never trusted each other now worked side by side. Not because they suddenly agreed, but because the sky above them no longer felt safe. In one lab, engineers stayed awake for 2 days straight, rewriting software meant for weather tracking. In another, scientists used old communication satellites in new ways, bending signals instead of strengthening them. No one waited for permission. The news reached the public soon after. There was fear, yes. People watched the sky more closely. They asked questions no one could fully answer. But there was no mass panic. No cities burned. No systems collapsed. Instead, people helped. Hospitals prepared quietly. Power stations reinforced their systems. Teachers explained what little was known in simple words, refusing to hide the truth. "We don't know what will happen," one teacher said to her class. "But we face it together." Above Earth, the Galactic Council watched in growing confusion. Alan Moore leaned forward as new data appeared. "They're coordinating." Sarah Wells frowned. "That's not normal." Earth's signals had changed. Instead of chaos, there was order. Instead of fear-filled noise, there was structure. Messages moved quickly but clearly. Decisions spread across the planet in hours, not weeks. "They should be arguing," a council member muttered. "They always argue." But Earth did not stop. The humans did not wait to be told what to do. They adjusted satellites, altered orbits, and tested defensive ideas that had never been used before. None of it was perfect. Some systems failed. Some plans were abandoned within minutes. But humans adapted fast, changing direction without pride or delay. On Earth, Tom watched live feeds from around the globe. "They're working like one system," he said quietly. Linda nodded. "Not because they trust each other," she said. "Because they understand the risk." The unknown fleet continued its approach. Earth's technology was still weaker. That truth could not be changed. But humans did not try to match strength with strength. They chose something else. Signals were sent, not loud ones but careful ones. Earth spoke into space with calm patterns, testing how the fleet reacted. Some signals were ignored. Others caused brief changes in the fleet's movement. Scientists noticed. "They're listening," one said. "Even if they don't answer." New plans formed. Not to attack, but to slow, to confuse, to protect. Above it all, the council grew uneasy. "This should not be possible," Sarah said. They were divided. "They still are," Alan replied. But division does not mean weakness. For the first time, the council did not see Earth as a lesson already written. The ending was no longer clear. On the surface of the planet, people waited. Some prayed. Some worked. Some simply held each other close. Fear was there, but it did not rule them. Humanity had responded. And the galaxy was watching, unsure of what it was seeing, as a small blue world refused to fall apart when it mattered most. The first probes arrived quietly. They were small dark shapes that slipped into Earth's outer space without light or sound. To the attackers, these machines were simple tools. They were meant to observe, measure, and report. No defense was expected. No danger. On Earth, the probes did not go unnoticed. Ethan Brooks stood in a crowded control room, eyes fixed on a moving pattern on the screen. The object was smooth and fast, unlike any satellite or debris humans had tracked before. It moved with purpose. "That's not natural," Ethan said. "And it's not friendly." Claire Adams stood beside him, her arms crossed tightly. She had worked most of her life on communication systems meant to connect people across the world. She never thought she would use that knowledge to protect the planet. "They're watching us," she said. "So let's show them something." The probes sent signals back toward their fleet, steady and clean. They expected silence in return. Instead, their data began to twist. Numbers shifted. Images blurred. Timing broke apart. The attackers assumed it was interference. Space was full of strange effects, but the interference grew stronger. On Earth, engineers worked quickly, not in one place but in many. Old radio systems were linked with modern networks. Weather satellites were used in ways never planned. Even forgotten machines were brought back online. Ethan watched as one probe slowed. Its movement became uneven, like it was unsure of itself. "It's reacting," he said. Claire nodded. "Then it can be confused." Humans did not fire weapons. They did not try to destroy what they could not fully understand. Instead, they listened. They studied how the probes spoke to each other. They noticed patterns. Repetition. Order. And then they broke that order. Signals meant for calm communication were reshaped into shields of noise, not loud but clever. They bent around the probes, forcing them to correct again and again. Every correction cost energy. Every mistake slowed them down. One probe drifted off course. Another stopped completely. Above Earth, in the chamber of the Galactic Council, silence spread. Alan Moore leaned closer to the display. "They're interfering without force." Sarah Wells' eyes narrowed. "That should not work." "But it is," Alan replied. The attackers noticed too. More probes were sent. Better ones. Faster ones. Humans adjusted. Claire rewrote entire systems in hours, sharing her work freely. Others improved it further. No one argued about credit. No one stopped to rest. Ethan coordinated with teams he had never met. Voices from different nations filled his headset, calm but focused. "They changed frequency," someone said. "Then we follow," Ethan replied. The probes tried to adapt, but humans adapted faster. Not because they were stronger, but because they were flexible. They abandoned ideas the moment they failed and moved on without regret. One probe sent back a broken report. Another sent nothing at all. The invading fleet slowed. Confusion spread among the attackers. This world was not behaving like others. There was no open attack. No surrender. Only resistance that could not be seen clearly. On Earth, the sky remained blue. Cities still stood. But behind that calm, a quiet battle of minds and signals continued. Claire stepped back from her screen, exhausted. "These systems were never meant for this," she said. Ethan smiled slightly. "Humans were never meant for this either." The council watched, no longer bored, no longer certain. "They're not fighting like we expect," Sarah said softly. Alan did not respond at first. He was watching Earth's data streams merge into something almost elegant. "They're learning," he said at last. "Together." The probes that remained active kept their distance now. They watched Earth carefully as if unsure. For the first time since the fleet had entered the system, it did not move forward. On Earth, no one celebrated. No one assumed victory. They knew this was only the beginning. But something important had changed. Humanity had not been silent. It had not broken. It had responded in a way the galaxy did not understand. And as the attackers slowed and the council leaned forward in quiet shock, one truth became clear. Earth was no longer an easy target. The choice to speak instead of strike did not come easily. On Earth, many voices asked for stronger action. Some wanted silence. Some wanted a show of power. But in the end, a different idea rose above the noise. "If they are watching us," Linda Grant said quietly, "then let them hear us." Tom Harris agreed. "Not a threat," he said. "A statement." Across the planet, Teams worked together to shape a message unlike any Earth had ever sent. It was not loud. It was not rushed. Every word was tested, removed, or rewritten until nothing remained but meaning. Ethan Brooks helped tune the signal so it would travel clean and clear. Claire Adams adjusted the structure, making sure it could not be mistaken for an attack or a trick. "We don't want fear to lead them," Claire said. "We want understanding." The transmission did not hide what Earth felt. It did not pretend humans were calm or fearless. But it did not beg either. It spoke of a shared home. Of people who argued and disagreed, yet stood together when it mattered. It explained in simple words that Earth did not seek war. It did not seek conquest. But it would not step aside and disappear. "This is our world," the message said. "We protect it. Together." The signal left Earth and moved into the dark. For a long moment nothing happened. On Earth people waited. Not in silence but in quiet focus. Systems remained active. Eyes stayed on screens. No one assumed the message would work. Above them, the attacking fleet received the transmission. They had expected noise, panic, threats filled with anger. Instead they found calm. The words were clear, honest, strong in a way that did not push or shout. The fleet slowed further. Commands were delayed. New orders were questioned. This world did not fit the pattern the attackers knew. It was not weak in the way they expected. It was not hostile in the way they understood. Minutes passed. Then more. One ship adjusted its position, pulling slightly back. Then another. On Earth, sensors picked up the change. "They're hesitating," Ethan said, disbelief in his voice. Linda closed her eyes briefly. "Good," she said. "That means they heard us." In the Galactic Council chamber, the reaction was very different. Alan Moore stood frozen, staring at the display. The fleet was no longer advancing. The data showed slow withdrawal, careful and controlled. "They're leaving," someone whispered. Sarah Wells felt a tight knot form in her chest. After a message? The Council had seen threats stop invasions before. They had seen force turn fleets away. But this was something else. "They didn't submit," Alan said softly. "And they didn't attack." The fleet continued to pull back, one ship at a time. No weapons fired. No final warning sent. Earth remained still. On the planet below, the message was played again and again, not as celebration but as reminder. People listened and understood what it meant. This was not victory. It was survival. When the last ship turned away, no cheers rose into the sky. People breathed. Some cried quietly. Some simply sat down where they stood. The council chamber filled with low voices. Confusion. Unease. "That should not have worked," Sarah said. Alan did not answer right away. He was still watching Earth's signal fade into background noise. "It worked," he said finally, "because they meant it." For the first time in many years, the Galactic Council felt something unfamiliar. Not at Earth's strength, but at its restraint. And as the stars returned to silence, the Council understood that the galaxy had just changed. The silence after the retreat felt heavier than the threat itself. Space around Earth slowly returned to normal patterns. No unknown signals. No moving shadows. Just stars, quiet and distant. On Earth, leaders did not rush to celebrate. They reviewed data again and again, searching for hidden danger. When none came, they allowed themselves to breathe. Then a new signal arrived. It did not come from the attackers. It came from the Galactic Council. The message was formal and careful. It invited Earth to speak. Not to surrender. Not to explain itself. To speak as a world that had been seen. Mark Turner read the transmission twice before looking up. "They want a conversation," he said. Anna Reed sat across from him, calm but alert. "That means they no longer see us as small." Preparations began at once. Not for defense but for words. Earth would not send soldiers or threats. It would send people. Mark and Anna were chosen because they listened well. They were not the loudest voices. They were steady, honest, human. When the connection opened, the chamber of the Galactic Council came into view. It was vast and bright, filled with shapes and forms from many worlds. Alan Moore and Sarah Wells stood among them, watching closely. The image of Earth's representatives appeared. There was no grand display. No show of power. Just two humans standing together. Mark spoke first. His voice was calm. "We thank you for inviting us." Anna continued. "We speak for our world. Not as rulers. Not as heroes. As people." The council listened. They expected demands. They expected pride. Instead they heard truth. Mark spoke of Earth's mistakes. Of division. Of fear. He did not hide them. He did not excuse them. Anna spoke of cooperation. Of how, when faced with the unknown, humans chose to protect rather than destroy. To speak rather than strike. We are not perfect, she said simply. But we are learning. Questions followed. Many of them. Why had Earth not attacked when it had the chance? Why had it not begged for help? Why had it trusted a message instead of force? Mark answered honestly. Because this is our home, he said. And homes are defended best when people stand together. The council members exchanged looks. Some leaned forward. Others sat very still. Alan Moore felt something shift inside him. He remembered how easily he had dismissed Earth. How certain he had been of its failure. Sarah Wells studied the humans carefully. There was no weakness in their calm. No fear hiding behind their words. Your world surprised us, Sarah said at last. Anna nodded. It surprised us too. A low sound moved through the chamber. Not anger. Not approval. Something closer to understanding. The council spoke among themselves. Their voices were quiet now. Thoughtful. Finally, Alan stepped forward. Earth, he said, you defended yourselves without seeking conquest. You spoke without anger. You adapted faster than any world we have seen. He paused. You are no longer unseen. The words carried weight. Mark and Anna did not smile. They did not bow. They simply listened. We invite Earth, Alan continued, to take its place among us. As a voice. As an equal. On Earth, the message echoed across the planet. People heard it in homes, in quiet rooms, in crowded streets. Some felt pride. Some felt relief. Many felt something new. Belonging. Mark answered for them all. We accept, he said. With care. The connection closed slowly. In the council chamber, no one spoke for a long time. They should not exist like this, one member said softly. They are too divided. Sarah shook her head. They are united where it counts. Alan looked once more at the image of Earth, peaceful and bright. That is their strength, he said. Not their tools. Not their reach. He folded his hands behind his back. It is their people. And across the galaxy, the story of Earth changed. Not as a warning, not as a weak world, but as a reminder that even a quiet blue planet could stand tall when its people stood together.